Welcome to the Business Lounge. My guest today is Alistair Heelas of JBL Leisure, a man who, well, really knows how to take the word no and totally ignore it, which I think is probably quite accurate, isn't it? Because you've had many no's in your time.
Yeah, lots of no's, especially in terms of the latter part of my career with the development of the snow globe. Everything's really been, don't do this, don't do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, 100 reasons why you shouldn't, and no reasons at all why you should, other than your goal and what you want to achieve.
And now you've done it, and you're doing it very successfully. We'll talk about the snow globe a bit later, but where did it all start for you? Because you have this true entrepreneurial spirit, don't you? Did that all happen at school?
Yeah, I suppose going back to school, my very first real job, I suppose, was selling cups of Marmite and hot dogs and coffee to golfers on a golf course in Hull.
Right.
From the age of about 13 years old.
Yeah.
We were given the opportunity to sell things halfway around about number 9 hole. So we bought in the hot dogs and the Marmite and the coffee and sold them, put a profit on it, and we made some pocket money basically. So I suppose that was where my first sort of real job of working out how to make money came.
And that gave you the taste for it, didn't it? Excuse the pun with the hot dogs, but that gave you an inkling that that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, during my time at school, I remember not being particularly academic, so not being an academic, I decided that I was going to have to find another way to make a living. I did have goals at that time. I wanted to be a professional diver, and I had been since I was old enough to read a magazine. So it was something that I aspired to and put a lot of thought into. Hence, I probably didn't concentrate as much as I should at school, and in hindsight now, I would have done irrespectively of what I wanted to do. Times have changed slightly now, but yeah, certainly I'd always wanted to be a professional diver, yeah. And I wanted to travel as well when I was young, so those two things went hand in hand, so it made good common sense to achieve that. So I actually went to sea on a ship as a deckhand to try and put some money aside to do a diving course. And after about 2 years, I'd realised enough money to go and do the first part of a diving course in Fort William in Scotland. And once I did that, I became a professional diver, but with little experience. Then I got more experience, did the next course, got more experience again, was offshore in the North Sea by this time, working as a professional diver, travelling around the world to, well, just about nearly every continent: Africa, India, the Far East, the Middle East. We spent lots of time in the Middle East, South America, and came back, took the next part of the diving course as fast as I can, became one of the youngest saturation divers in the North Sea, and one of my first jobs was doing the salvage of Piper Alpha, the disaster that happened in 1988, as a saturation diver. And of course we were very well paid, so the money I achieved from diving I used still to travel, and in between working in the North Sea, travelled to parts of the Middle East, Africa and Asia to dive as well, and sort of combined diving and leisure into one activity for myself.
So how do you go from living your dream as presumably a 20-something-year-old who, on the face of it, had everything they wanted? They had the career they wanted, you had enough money in your pocket to go wherever you wanted. How did that then bring you back home and take you into the world of business?
I had a young family and I wanted to be with them, and decided that I would turn my hand to something else using all the skills I'd learned through diving. Not just diving, but people skills and other skills I'd learnt as well from other people, and formulated a leisure company, because I could see that leisure was a great activity that was turning around in the UK, especially shopping malls. So I directed all my energies to the UK shopping mall market and tried to create from nothing something that would be a door opener for me, so that would help me to be able to go in there and offer bigger and better services, but to get known as a quality operator and a quality service provider first. So JBL was formed from that idea, and we went on to provide most of the shopping centres in the UK, especially the top 10, the biggest ones, including Harrods and other shopping retail outlets such as that, with services. Those services ranged from children's attractions to shows to just about. We became known as the bespoke tailors to the leisure industry, and we coined that phrase because we used to just say to everybody, you tell us what you want, if we can provide it, we'll tailor it to your needs. And all of a sudden, through diving and the use of diving chambers, we've born the idea for the snow globe. And a friend of mine in London, who's a colleague of mine, he actually said to me, you know, that it would be a really good idea. And we drew a few drawings on napkins and played around a few things, went to a factory to speak to a manufacturer, went through the run-of-the-mill basic sort of stuff to begin with, stage one, and decided to make one and take it from there.
Now this is a snow globe. Just explain what it is.
Well, a snow globe is a clear sphere with a 360-degree view around it. It has a twin lock inside, so it has an access into the back, and then there's what we call a backdrop curtain with another zip in it, which allows you access into the main chamber. The idea is it was created as a photographic opportunity to take over from grottos, not completely, but to put another angle on Christmas. And what I'd realised is that shopping centres were saying to me that grottos were very expensive to run. They were non-profit making. In fact, they were actually costing them money. They're extremely difficult in these times with Father Christmas and all the sort of critics looking at these different types of attitudes towards religion and children. So we needed to find something that wasn't specific to children, which the globe is because it's specific to all the family, and non-religious, which it's not a religious object. So the snow globe fits the bill to replace or to work alongside the grotto. It costs less money to put into a shopping centre, and it turns a much larger profit with a lot less staff, no Father Christmas, etc. So it fitted all the requirements for these type of applications.
So you had this great idea of the snow globe. You had, one would assume, a profitable company in JBL Leisure to start with anyway. How did you go about developing it? Because, I mean, I mentioned at the beginning of this, you had an awful lot of no's.
Yeah.
It took a bit of persuading by the sound of things.
Yeah, the most difficult aspect of the snow globe was the patenting and trademarking and the protection of your intellectual property rights for a specific product. After speaking with various patent lawyers, we chose a set of patent lawyers in the south of England. We started on the journey, which was patenting. Again, something probably from childhood I'd always wanted to achieve would be to invent something and patent in it and sell it. Because at that time there weren't so many people doing that. I always remember watching a television programme about a guy that invented the cat's eyes. He didn't particularly make any money because he didn't have any sort of business savvy, so the bottom line was somebody else did, and the rest is history, as we know. We drive along them every day. So based on wanting to achieve that, I was really happy to find myself in a position where I was trying to get a patent. So we went through the process, the patent process, and did achieve getting the patent granted by the UK Patent Office. In between there, lots of smaller companies were trying to stop us from doing that by saying they'd invented it first. That included companies from China, America, Canada, all over the world. So when we did the searches, we found that we actually had come up with a design that had never been invented before. So it was great. So when we got that awarded to us, that was another tick in the box. And now it was a license now to actually produce that product, which was the snow globe. Because when you're creating a patent, you can't really expose the product until you've got the patent granted, because that allows other people potentially to copy you.
Yes.
Your rights are not quite the same. But we got a European design application license granted also. And we also did this in Australia and other countries to cover us specifically in each country where we wanted to trade the snow globe, or potentially later on to license it, which is what we do now. But the bottom line is it was a hard fight and a struggle all the way along, because at every hurdle we found that we were just, in terms of cash flow, all the money was going into paying lawyers to try and achieve our goal. Even though we'd achieved it, then the money started pouring back into the lawyers' coffers, with no disrespect to them, because they were doing their job that we'd requested them to do, but because we now had to start protecting it.
Yeah.
And the moment we exposed it to the UK market, everybody jumped on the bandwagon, and the Chinese jumped on the bandwagon, and before we knew it, the Chinese had started to import them into the UK. However, we managed to stop a lot of the Chinese imports by, literally threatening companies with lawsuits against our intellectual property, and we did achieve stopping the Chinese imports and actually having them physically removed from shopping centres who actually didn't realise that they were breaching a patent.
But how easy, without going into the technicals, how easy is it to patent what is ostensibly a spherical piece of plastic that's kept inflated by a reversing vacuum cleaner? You know, I mean, I know that's very simplistic, but I mean, that's basically what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nearly impossible, and everybody said not to do it, because the three biggest known objects to man in terms of shape that are known to the world are a sphere, which is the sun and the moon and the earth, a triangle, which is one of the seven wonders, which is the pyramid and represents mathematics, etc., and a cube.
Yeah.
So we just tried to not reinvent the wheel, but to patent something that's been around for hundreds. So in theory, why hadn't anybody come up with the idea to do what we did? I don't know, but you know, I came up with the idea to put a dividing wall in it, and that is what created us to be able to patent that sphere, because it encompassed another design application within it. So the impossible was achieved through a thought process of how to make something work, but how to make it into a business and actually to make money. But when I say make money, I'm not just making money for JBL Leisure, I'm making hundreds and hundreds of other people money as well. We've created a lot of jobs through this, not direct jobs with JBL, but direct jobs with other companies. We've helped other smaller companies grow by giving them a license to operate and sell the snow globe on behalf of JBL Leisure in the UK and in Europe. We've done the same in America. And those companies are now taking a snow globe, they're hiring it to a shopping centre after purchasing it from us. They're creating a photographic opportunity, employing 3 or 4 staff per site, and they're making themselves a nice revenue over a short period of time at Christmas. And now the globe, because we've got 5 different ranges, we're using them for dressing shop windows, we put them in Topshop in London.
Will it be a constant battle then, you know, fighting the people who want to put out a similar yet inferior product to you?
Yeah, it will be a constant battle, and the moment we came up with the idea for the snow globe, or certainly I did, I was already starting to think about the next application that may come along. I mean, 3D is the biggest thing that's happened in TV, so 3D is the next biggest thing that's going to happen in shopping centres. The difference is in cost. Where we started from the grotto, the cost was too high, there was no financial gain for anybody. It didn't do what the snow globe can do. It couldn't take 6 or 7 people, look after families, provide a different type of service. Whereas the 3D may be excellent, but it's a different application. But whether or not they've got it in the budgets to actually push that out into the miles at this stage is a different thing. But it's good. It's competition. It creates another dimension to the offer that's going on. In terms of Christmas only, of course, because, as I say, the globe, you know, we're using it for advertising, retail and marketing. So, although there are other applications that are available for Christmas, there aren't any that are specific. I mean, the grotto has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, in fact, thousands of years, really. And the only other thing that's come along is the snow globe. And, you know, I mean, this week alone, we've got, I think, some 600 delegates attending a conference in London, which we're a big part of. And they're all coming to see the snow globe, you know, as in terms of what it can do for their footfalls and their dwell times in shopping centres.
Is the snow globe your proudest moment, if you like? I mean, you formed the company, you did JBL Leisure, which was doing very well, but you've clearly had such a struggle to get the snow globe first patented and then successful. Is it your proudest achievement?
I would say the snow globe is one of my proudest achievements, yeah. In terms of it being a different side and aspect from when I was a professional diver, it is probably the glowing moment, yeah, to say that when we got that patented and then to prove that we could sell it is a defining moment.
Are you happy with where you are now and who you are now as an individual?
As an individual, I'm very happy with who I am and where I am, yeah. Certainly, I've got no regrets. And yes, there are probably a couple of things I could do to have learnt lessons by and changed and maybe made the same mistakes twice, but I don't think I've made the same mistakes 3 times, and there are few rather than more, you know. So I think I'm happy as a person with what I've achieved in life to date, and looking forward to achieving more and continuing growing and expanding. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing more about it and seeing more about it. It's very good to see you, Ali. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Alistair Heelas.